just wanted some light up in there. That's all. That alone is just going to be a sweet shot. If I move it all down and shut off the half a second, which stays really slow. Just want to see that shot alone right there is sweet. Okay, in this third of the three-part series shoot with the 68 Harley-Davidson Shovelhead and its owner, Kevin Bass. This third part, we're going to just go through how I shot and edited the portrait of Kevin sitting on his bike. So here we are in Lightroom looking at the raw image unedited from the lighting of Kevin straight out of the camera. And first thing you can see is the hint of fill light that is happening up here underneath the brim, and then my key light coming from upper left to lower right. Some spilling on the bike here a little bit, and the rest of the bike being very dark, the background being underexposed. And so with a shot like this, you know, it was sort of just a last second, let's do this, let's try it. And really the intention was that I would light him and then bring the work from the bike separate into this shot. Except that I forgot to tell Kevin when he climbed on the bike to not move the bike. And I watched him do it real time. Not his fault, totally my fault. And the bike had moved. And so the idea of bringing all the lighting work from the previous shots of the bike alone onto this were off the table because of all the movement of the bike. So, kids, lesson learned. You can't have your core subject moving ever. You can't have your camera moving, you can't have your vehicle moving, or you're sort of in trouble with building a finished image. That being said, I still had a great single frame image of Kevin. I had light on him. That's all I needed. Didn't have to overthink it. So let's go through the editing. And of course, the first thing I'm going to do is auto awesome this. And there's what we get when we do that. I think I probably want to auto the color balance as well, get that a little better. Maybe not even so much like that. Maybe I'll use my custom color tool. That actually gets me back close to the way it was shot. That's fine. I think it's slightly cool. Now, despite how the histogram looks in the upper right of the screen, I don't want the background this bright. I don't want any, I'm just going to pull the bike and Kevin out as a main subject. So I'm going to pull this back into around here. Probably going to ease up on the highlights issue. Might actually open up my shadows a bit. And everything else is fine. I'm going to add my saturation back a few points here. And that becomes a starting point. Now, I want to go down and look at the detail panel in Lightroom. And sharpening, fine. This was really sharp to begin with. And I'm not going to do any noise on it yet because I'm going to do their AI noise reduction when I'm done. Now, look, this isn't going to be a noisy file. It was shot at ISO 100 on my Sony a7R III, but I'm going to work it a little bit. And that also tends to bring out the noise. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the mask work I did only in Lightroom. I never took this image into Photoshop. So So here are my masks, and I'm going to go one by one here. I have them all turned off right now. So it won't make a lot of sense yet, but this first one is a linear gradient from the bottom up, and I tend to do that in my shots just to help bring some element of focus to the core subject matter, which is Kevin and his bike. So I'm gonna turn that on and off, and you can just see how I brought a linear gradient in and darkened things up at the bottom a little bit. Next thing I did was brighten Kevin, and so here I had Lightroom select subject, and it selected Kevin, and I was able to actually bring out the light on Kevin quite a bit. Really, that was huge, being able to do that and do it so easily. I think this third mask is addressing some of the engine area of the bike and just bringing some light in there. Yep. So that looks much better. And then the next couple were for the floor. So I think I did it by color range, and you can see, opened up the exposure on the floor a little bit. There we go. Then, this next one is just some, if you look at both the front and the rear wheels, as I turn that on and off, I wanted to darken a little bit of an area back there where my previous mask did not cover. So I did that. And now the real work begins. So that's the little stuff. Now the real work begins with the background. So I'm going to turn on my background here and talk to you about how I got here. It was a bit of work. Now, I started, you can see the mask a little bit there. This was a case where Lightroom did not want to pick the motorcycle as a subject and only wanted to pick Kevin. So even when I picked background, it picked the motorcycle. So I had to go in with a brush and remove all the stuff that was critical around the motorcycle because of the edits I really wanted to do on the floor and background. So I had to do a bit of custom brush work here. It didn't take too long, but it was more of a pain in the butt than I thought it was going to be. So if we look at what I did here, I definitely lowered the exposure on the background. Whoops. Sorry about that. I definitely lowered the exposure on the background by more than a half a stop. I also significantly cooled the color temperature of the background. Probably even a little too much, so I'm going to ease that back there. Those were the two things I did. Now, that was working for me, but then I wanted to fix a couple of other items, so I'm going to go to my last two masks. And if you look, I wanted to open up the whites on the bike paint, and I had this yellow color mess going on here on the tail of the rear fender. So I did some work to correct that. So turn that on a little bit, still a little warm on that tail, but just taking some of the cool blue out of the white, brightening the white, and then you might notice in the video that the tank actually still has a little bit of cool blue coming into it. I think I tried to desaturate and take that out a little bit. And actually it looks really orange now. So I don't know what is going on there. So just working everything the way I want it to present. Now, the next thing I'm going to do to finish it, but that was all my Lightroom work on this. It was really just getting this where I wanted it to be. And I still think I could probably make some adjustments here on the floor. I wanted to go back to here and actually bring that part down a little. That'd probably be a little better. And then I'm going to go back to the background and maybe not make it quite so dark. There we go. Something like that. Beautiful. Now, I'm basically done with my Lightroom work here. Then we're going to go, we could call this done. It's a great looking portrait. I would love to show you the effect of lens blur on the background, but boy, it's getting a little heavy on my processor. So instead of dragging, I would love, well, okay, fine. Let's just turn it on and see what happens. It's going to take a second here. Still waiting for it to take hold. And it's going to come here in just a moment. All right, there's a bunch of lens blur. Now, if I wanted to spend time here, and you could do it on your own images, first, you can see this mirror that's way in the background. It does not detect that as a subject, so I can actually go in there, click blur down here in the lower right, give me a brush and I can blur that in. But I also have some blurriness going on the bike and little spots here on the tip of the fender, and the tail light back here is blurred out. So I would go in there and use focus and start painting back in the areas I want in focus. And then I would also adjust the blur amount, which, this isn't terrible. It's pretty cool, but I think it's a little too much for me. I'm going to do about half of that. So there. Might be able to live with that and not even have to do a whole lot of fixing on this. But I know once I start fixing it, my processor, everything's going to slow down a lot. So I'm actually just going to turn it off for now and know that that's a pretty cool way to finish an image right now in Lightroom. But the last thing we're going to do is add a little mood to this. So we're going to wrap this part of Lightroom up here and take it over into Luminar AI like we did with part 2 of the motorcycle edit, and just add some mist to this. We have the image opened in Luminar AI, and with a lot of these shots, the first thing I like to do is a little mystical. And of course, you can always just play around if you're using this, or play around with some method in Lightroom that's similar to this. But I like to add, if we go 100% mystical here, we can see what starts to happen. It gets soft, it gets high contrast, it's really separating shadows from highlights. And not the worst thing ever, but not really my vibe, though I do love how it pulls the bike and Kevin in as the main subject. I'm going to back off of that a bit, and I'm still digging it. So I'm going to probably just go with that there. We can open up shadows a little bit more if we want, but that's part of the contrast that it's giving us. So it's sort of important to be aware of that. And now we're going to add some atmosphere. And in part 2, I went through these, so I'm not going to say too much about it. I want 100% depth and about 75% on amount for this shot. And I'm getting this nice moody haze in there. But I am going to brush away some of this off the bike and off of Kevin. So I do not want to see this over some of this color, beautiful color on the fenders. And I certainly don't want to see it over any of the badging for Harley Davidson. I'm just doing this quickly. I'm going to be a little sloppy about it here. Don't want to see it over the engine. Let's see it back here on this beautiful paintwork. And a little too sloppy here. There we go. Let me take some of this out here. That's chrome. Enough chrome to go home. Maybe two here. Something like that. Just to clean up the bike a little bit. And I think we can basically call this done. So nice and easy. Now, as long as we're here, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I have a direction to the light coming from upper left to lower right. Maybe we should make some light in there. So I'm going to add some sun rays. I've done this a lot, so I know the settings I like, but I'm going to add too much right now. And I'm going to get full penetration. Don't worry, I'm going to back that all back down, but ray settings, I think I like it around 8 of them. Again, just play. Just play. I think we need to move this a little bit higher. Okay, that's getting sort of cool. Now I can start backing off, way off on that light source. Good. Sun settings. Let's see here. How big a light source do I want? I don't know. Probably that's sort of ridiculous. But fine. Glow amount. Okay. Let's play with the number of rays here again. Maybe we want a little. No. Every time I do this, I land right on 8. That sort of works for me. Maybe I'll try moving this around a little bit. If we something more like that. Or if I come over here, what happens? No. Well, I'm not sure I love this. This was a Hail Mary here. Don't like it. Can I undo it? Leave it alone and hit apply. And that will apply these to a duplicate copy that Luminar AI and Lightroom made for us when we started this process in Luminar AI. So it's going to apply these settings to that duplicate copy, and when we go back, then the last thing I'm going to do is probably run. No, I'm probably not, because I forgot I cannot run the AI denoise on that now. So I'll just add a little denoise to it. The luminance, maybe 25 each. There's absolutely no loss of detail or softening taking place at 25 points each on this. It's really good in Lightroom and very gentle to the detail. So I'm going to call that a complete image of our 3 flashlight portrait of Kevin and his motorcycle. So thanks. Hopefully you found this interesting.